In a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills, there stood an old manor known as Holloway House. The mansion had been abandoned for decades, its once grand facade now weathered and crumbling. Despite its dilapidated state, the house had a reputation for being haunted, and the townsfolk avoided it at all costs. The most unsettling of the tales surrounding Holloway House was that of the cat's whispers in the walls. The story began with the Cartwright family, who had once owned the manor. They were a wealthy family, but tragedy had struck when their youngest daughter, Emily, disappeared one night without a trace. The only thing left behind was her beloved pet cat, Whiskers, who was found pacing frantically around her empty room. The family searched everywhere but could find no sign of Emily. Heartbroken, they eventually left the manor, and it fell into disrepair. Years later, a young couple, Helen and David, purchased the manor with the intention of restoring it. They were drawn to its old-world charm and excited by the challenge of bringing it back to life. Despite the warnings from the locals, they moved in, eager to start their new life together. The first few weeks were filled with the noise of renovations and the excitement of discovering the manor's hidden beauty. But soon strange things began to happen. At night, they would hear soft, persistent scratching sounds coming from within the walls, as if something was trying to get out. It was faint at first, but over time the noise grew louder and more insistent. Helen, who had a love for animals, thought it might be a trapped animal and persuaded David to investigate. They searched the house, tapping on the walls and floors, but found nothing. The scratching continued, and soon they began to hear something even more unsettling: whispers. The sound was faint, almost like a soft voice carried by the wind, but unmistakable. It was the sound of a cat meowing softly, as if calling out for someone. The whispers seemed to follow them through the house, growing louder at night. Helen became increasingly uneasy, feeling as if they were being watched. One night, as she lay in bed, she felt a sudden, cold draft and heard the cats meowing right next to her ear. She bolted upright, only to find the room empty. Determined to uncover the source of the whispers, Helen and David began to explore the manor more thoroughly. They searched through the dusty, forgotten rooms, hoping to find some clue that would explain the strange occurrences. In the attic, hidden behind a pile of old trunks, they discovered a small locked door that led to a secret room. The room was dark and musty, filled with old toys and furniture covered in dust. In the corner, they found a small bed, perfectly preserved, as if waiting for its owner to return. And there on the bed was a small worn stuffed cat that looked eerily familiar. It was the spitting image of Whiskers, the cat that had belonged to Emily. As Helen picked up the stuffed cat, she felt a sudden rush of cold air, and the whispers grew louder. She could hear the cat's meows clearer now, as if they were coming from inside the walls. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The whispers were not just a haunting but a cry for help. Desperate to put an end to the eerie occurrences, Helen and David contacted a paranormal investigator. The investigator, an older man with years of experience, listened to their story and agreed to help. He explained that the whispers were likely the residual energy of the lost child and her cat, trapped within the walls of the house. With the investigator's guidance, they performed a cleansing ritual.